Hey, it's Alli.
And Autumn.
And on Friday, March 31st, we went into downtown Williamsport to the Lycoming College Senior Art Show at the Community Arts Center. Here we saw a variety of artists and many different types of artwork, and we are going to highlight two collections in this review.
The first senior whose work really spoke to us was Sanchez, an artist who drew inspiration from her first-generation status and represent many of her obstacles revolving around depression, gender, sexuality, death, and identity through her art. These are various heavy topics, and throughout her work, drew from her experiences and created vulnerable, moving pieces. We found her art very inspiring and multifaceted. One of her pieces that really stood out to us was Me, Myself, and I, an oil paint and pastel work. 3 figurines are depicted in all purple, wearing distraught and blank stares. Facial expressions reveal a lot about a person, and Sanchez leaves her onlookers wondering what is troubling her subjects. Utilizes the properties of oil paint to create a smooth mirrored reflection of the figure laying on their side on the right, which really adds another dimension to this piece. Oil paints rose in popularity in the 15th century due to Dutch painter Jan van Eyck's oil paint formula, but before oil paint was mainstream, artists used tempera paint. Tempera paint was a mixture of pigment and egg yolk, but it dried fast and made detail work nearly impossible. As B's piece demonstrates, oil paint allows artists to create a sense of depth through different levels of pigmentation. The background character is fainter, and B sort of allows that last person to fade without the dark definitive lines characteristic of the characters in the foreground. The feet of the leftmost character are out of proportion with the rest of the figure, which is something we explored during class. This manipulation of proportion draws the viewer's eyes to the feet and raises the question, why did the artist want me to look at this aspect of her piece so much she enlarged it? Artists are able to use their art as their voice, and something as puzzling as large feet can symbolize something in their work. The flowing lines on the figures are reminiscent of the Expressionism period, although are different since Expressionism utilized bright, vibrant colors and non-natural forms, and B uses the bright purple primarily to denote the clothes on the figures.
The second collection we wanted to highlight was the work done by Elena Lucchi, where she explored abstract impasto paintings throughout her pieces. Impasto is a technique where the paint is laid thickly on any type of surface to allow for strokes to be visible. Impasto came into its own during the Baroque art movement in the 17th century, where artists depicted the lines of the objects they were creating. 19th century painter Vincent van Gogh often used impasto in his artwork, most famously seen in The Starry Night and Sunflowers. He would define his work with thick dabs of paint, giving the elaborate physical qualities of the raw pigment on the canvas. Elena Lucchi's impressionistic impasto is showing the textures of the painting and going beyond just the ordinary acrylic paint. She uses plywood as her canvas for her acrylic molding paste and paint mixture. Here is where she used her sculpting knife and paint mixture to create the thick lines and measure movement of the work. She describes her work as being freeing and how it allows her to be spontaneous in discovering new things. Her work, Triangular Waves of Color, has very brilliant and vibrant colors with the abstract triangular shapes, creating those sharp lines that draw your eyes to all different areas of the work. She allows negative space in the plywood in most of her work to show the fragmented pieces and how they do not all fit together perfectly. The blues dominant piece has interesting textures that make the colors almost a 3D print look, along with the very bright colors to draw you in. The yellow and oranges that peek through the blues can show a reminiscence of the sun rays showing through her work. One of her other works, Somber Quads of Color, was her tallest piece, showing perspective change to have the viewer scale the work with their eyes. The artwork's colors all complement one another with square-like textiles that still have fragmented pieces. There are longer pieces along the left side of the work, and the fragments start to get smaller as you scan left to right. Her work has a flowing nature to it and shows a carefree spirit that can inspire ourselves, where not every piece of our lives has to fit perfectly together. It can be fragmented and still be beautiful.
Thank you so much for listening to our Lyco Arts educational video, and we'd like to thank all of the artists from the Senior Art Show for sharing their art with us.